There are still more questions and answers about this Christmas Eve power outage that affected hundreds of thousands of people in North Carolina. In a briefing yesterday, Duke Energy said the blackouts were needed to stabilize the grid when demand for power exceeded supply. Duke said its demand on Christmas Eve morning exceeded its forecast by about 10%. Our Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie has been digging into the reasons for that, and she joins us live from Duke's downtown headquarters. Laura?
Gerald, Duke Energy executives told state regulators yesterday that part of the reason for the rolling blackouts on Christmas Eve was that the weather was colder than expected. Well, obviously the winter storm was not a secret to anybody, so we wondered, was their forecasting accurate? And we spent much of the day today looking into how much of a role that might have played.
Not only were the temperatures much lower than typical in our region, they dropped at a very fast rate. It got much colder, much faster than what we normally see here in the Carolinas.
That's Duke Energy North Carolina President Kendall Bowman. Her team said Duke uses 3 forecasting models, and all 3 include the National Weather Service forecast. Duke Vice President Sam Holloman told regulators that as of Monday, the 19th, its forecasts were in line with NWS for the Triangle and Eastern North Carolina.
In DEP, we were predicting a temperature of 20 degrees across the peak on the 24th. And the National Weather Service was predicting 21.
Over the next few days, though, the forecast changed. By the day before the blackouts, the National Weather Service was predicting a low Christmas Eve morning of 11 degrees in Raleigh and 13 in Fayetteville, quite a bit lower than the earlier forecast. The actual low at RDU that morning was just 10 degrees, and wind chills were predicted below zero throughout the area, increasing demand even more. Spokesman Jeff Brooks told us Duke was updating its forecasting models throughout the week, and its final forecast for Christmas Eve morning was just a degree or 2 off NWS and the actual low. The problem was higher than expected demand. He said they're looking into whether wind chill could have played a role in that. Duke Vice President Nelson Peeler told regulators each degree the temperature falls in the winter increases demand by 200 to 300 megawatts. But he insisted a more accurate forecast wouldn't have prevented the need for the rolling blackouts because the utility needed to purchase extra power from the grid Christmas Eve morning, and it just wasn't there to buy.
A perfect forecast a week ahead would certainly been helpful to prepare, but the fact of the matter is that there was limited energy available at those levels. We could have prepared better, we could have communicated better, but to say it would have eliminated the event would be I think would be a stretch.
The extreme cold took a toll on Duke on the generation side as well. The utility told regulators yesterday it lost nearly 1.4 gigawatts of power and power generation capacity due to malfunctioning equipment, and that was caused by the extreme cold. And that's after the utility told state regulators last summer that it had completed all the upgrades to weatherproofing at its facilities. Gerald?
And to be clear, the WRAL forecasters predicted a low of 10 for Christmas Eve. It indeed was 10 on Christmas Eve. Laura Leslie live for us tonight. Thank you, Laura.